really wanted to understand. I really wanted to understand how data can actually be used in different industries. That's why I learned my interest in data science. And through maybe different, like looking here and there, I was able to pinpoint Africa Data School, who are offering the course. So it was easy for me to just jump from that to be specific about doing data science. And
Okay,
that's
hold. You've jumped to the track.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we are heading there. Don't deny these guys of the opportunity to know even the nitty gritties.
Yeah.
So you went to JQuat, you learned computer science. Of course, I expect that computer science you've learned almost everything about computers.
Yeah.
After finishing your campus, how did you get a job?
No, actually, I didn't because one of the worst thing that happened was that I cleared campus, but I didn't know how to program. So I didn't know how to work with Java. I didn't know how to work with Python. I even didn't know how to work with SQL. I just had the theoretical background of how computers work. So it was a very big challenge for me to get a job because most of the jobs were very specific. Do you know how to code? Do you know how to build software? Do you know how to work with database? And I didn't know any of that. So there was a very big gap between completing school and actually getting a placement in terms of a job. Yeah, there was that gap.
Okay, I think most of the people empathize with
Yeah.
such a story where you finish campus and then you realize that you don't have actual skills
Yeah.
to to deliver in the job market. So what did you do about it? Like you realize you can't get a job, you need these skills. What did you do about it?
Yeah. So basically, the fact that the only investment that I had at that time was that knowledge of computer, and I just had to sit down and pick a language. At that time, Java was very popular. They call it as an object-oriented programming language. It's an advancement of C. So most people are into C sharp, most people are into C++. I picked Java. It wasn't really easy actually because you'll go to YouTube, they say take a 21-day crash course. It's not really practical in very many aspects. But I just started looking at these platforms, some of these, going back to the basics. What does it mean to know how to program in Python? And together, because I was into data, I also learned how to work with SQL. It took a lot of time actually because there was no guide. Um, I had to choose my own tasks. Sometimes I do not finish. There is no objective. You just wake up one day and then you do a particular element and see if you're improving. So that took like a full year just to understand how to work with Java to some extent. But then I changed to Python because of how easier it is to code with Python and of course with SQL. So it took some time for me to be very knowledgeable, skilled in those two languages.
Okay, that's an interesting. You like everybody else, or like most people, you had to do some self kind of teaching just to bridge the gap of you having the theory and you having the actual skill. So
Yeah.
where does you and wanting to join Africa Data School come in?
Yeah, so that actually dates back to my supervisor in campus because my project was majorly about understanding user or customer behavior using data mining. So as some of us know, data mining is very broad, and he encouraged me and told me that most of the industries right now they're into data science. They want people who are actually good at data. So when I was still teaching myself how to use these languages and how to be skillful in these languages, I was also out there looking for opportunities, not really to get a job initially, but something that can ease me from school now to teach me what is really required out in the market. So and through that, I went to platforms like Fuzu, I went to platforms like Jobs and all that, and then I found out that Africa Data School are offering a training course. And I look at that timeline, it was quite very short. And with my little background, I was very confident that if I joined this course, then it will be easy for me to be very specific and know how to really work with data science and eventually maybe how that can translate into the industry. And that's when I actually onboarded to the institution.
Okay. Okay. What year did you join?
So that should be in 2020. Yeah, just before the corona pandemic and all that. That was in
Oh, COVID,
January.
just before COVID.
Yeah, that's before COVID. So we actually learned the 3 months, and then the whole lockdown happened. So that was the year that I joined the school precisely.
Okay. That's great. And so just tell us, what was your experience for the 3 months at the time, given that there was a disruption still of learning, because I think we were doing physical classes at the time, and then we had to shift to online. So just tell us, what was your experience, whether you finished uh, the full in-person class, or you had to shift online.
Yeah, so I was lucky actually to participate in the in-person classes at that time. So, and also most of my colleagues had a very good knowledge when it came to working with data. Some of them actually knew how to build full web applications, deployed some of them. So it was a very good experience to learn from some of the students who attended the sessions, and also from the instructor. And we were actually able to finish the course before we went, but we were not able to provide the project. We were just able to finish the course. So that was enough for us to do a project. We were given like around 1 or 2 months to provide an end-to-end project. That means from where you've collected the data and up to where the application actually works. So, and also because of that kind of a lockdown, there was enough time for us to, or for me to actually sit down and revisit everything from the start and actually start building a project. And I was able to build a project in natural language processing. And during all that while, we were back and forth with the instructor, trying to, discuss about, what about if I choose this framework, how is this framework better than the other? And what are the best techniques of you maybe working around this kind of projects? And that's what majorly made me to be successful in completing that project at that time.
Okay. Kindly, would you like to at least tell us a bit, 1 minute, 1 minute, 30 seconds of what your project was about, what's the problem you are solving, and what was your solution?
Yeah, so most of my colleagues actually were into machine learning, predictive analytics, and I was very interested in text. I wanted to understand how to work around text. And at that time, there weren't really simple machine learning models for you to build, use that can work with text data. So I approached my instructor, and then I mentioned that, I wanted to provide a customer service kind of an application that can be able to understand requests in terms of messaging. Maybe someone can actually enter to WhatsApp, Telegram, like what we see with Glovo nowadays, you order food. So basically, if you can build something like a restaurant chatbot, and then people can be able to make orders via this platform. So at that time, I was hard coding everything until he introduced me to a framework that could offer a solution that all you need to do is just collect enough data and then curate this data, then build a very simple pipeline. And then the deployment part of how you want to expose this system or this project. Do you want to expose it on a Facebook Messenger, on a website? And I preferred that to be on Telegram. So I used a platform called Raza, which is actually a conversational AI platform. And it took me some time to really understand that framework, because there is the part of you knowing how to work with natural language processing. And then there's part of you actually working with like standard frameworks like Raza. So that's when I was actually able to complete the project and deploy it on Azure Cloud. So there was a whole lot of things I had to learn while doing the project, as opposed to what we had just learned in class. This was more of a real task, of a real use case that I was able to build using that platform.
Right. Thank you for that. And please note if you have any questions as Jackie continues to give us his story, just write it on the chat. At the end of this conversation, I'm going to be able to ask them those questions and some that I'll be able to answer which are related to Africa Data School. So don't let any of your questions go unanswered. Write them down. I'm going to read them out. I'm going to answer some, and Jackie is going to answer the other. So Jackie, so now you've done your project and you're done with Africa Data School. We've issued you with a certificate. What was next after that?
Yeah, that was a good question because apparently after that is now what do you really know? And then you spend some time learning, you spend some time um, actualizing that project. Now it's a point where you're supposed to maybe look for somewhere they can pay you some money for your skill and something like that. So it was quite tough, but what I told myself is that yes, I've built a project that is successful. I think I needed some more kind of information on what the industry actually requires. So I didn't really go out to look for a job initially. Instead, I wanted to build that project into a product. And because it was revolved around artificial intelligence and natural language processing, and in terms of business, it was actually solving a customer service kind of a problem. Then I was like, what if we just build this project into a product and then possibly uh, maybe start offering this kind of a service. And that's what actually fueled me at that time. So I went deeper into understanding how this project can sit in the market, possibly assess other kind of business use cases that maybe I can transform this project to start solving. And then through that, again, because that period that we are having with COVID, I was invited back to African Data School to assist with instructing the students who were there at that time virtually. So that also gave me some more time, some time like to really finesse on what I knew and also what I understood the market to be and require of me at that time.
Okay. You. So this is what time did you come to work for Africa Data School?
So
Which year?
that should be in 2021. That's 1 year after that. So that would be in January.
In January 2021.
Yeah, in January 2021. And there's a whole difference of you knowing something, and then there's a difference of you actually telling people about it. So it was
Yes.
also a learning
And
experience. Yeah,
yes,
it was a very
yes.
a great learning experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing I love about your period from the point where you finished school and the point where you actually helped to deliver value to now someone. In between, you are not idle. You are trying to build things, and I think that's very profound because most of the time we want to go help other people solve problems. For example, now you're helping Hooray solve problems for other
Yeah.
customers. So actually, you're helping Hooray solve problems for customers. But I think when it starts from you being, and you'll attest that one of the qualities of a good data scientist is having the ability to look at a problem and be able to devise a solution, a data-centric solution to that problem. And it's something that you can acquire even without having to get a job first, like you did with your project, wanting to advance it more, wanting to have people try to use, inquiring who else can help me with this. So I think that is something that for anyone who even who might join us soon or will join other institutions of data science. Once you finish, it's one thing to just learn in class, and there's another thing to practice. And I think Jackie's stories just tells it as it is.
Yeah.
So you join Africa Data School, and then you realize you having studied and you having to teach others. Tell us a bit about that experience and how it shaped you.
Yeah, so I think that was my kind of a focal point because there was what I knew and then what most of the students wanted to know in terms of the course and also expectations. Most people coming to data, they expect like, you're going to just learn about data within a few weeks. You should be good at it. You should be very uh, uh, easy with programming languages like Python. And after some 2 or 3 weeks, you should be able to get into a job. But that's not true. I think one of the things that I emphasized on was there are some of the students who came from domain knowledge or domain related kind of industries, guys coming from finance, manufacturing, and those different industries. And the most important thing is how can you leverage data science for that particular industry. So data science is not like a standalone kind of a concept or a field. It actually sits on any industry, depending on which particular use case you want to apply that to and what available data is there. And do you want to use frameworks that are open source? Do you want to use enterprise software? And at the baseline of that all is, do you really know how to program? Do you really know how to write code? And do you really know how to use that code to work with data at the same time? So that was part of what I had to actually affirm to most of the students who came. And also beyond that, are you able to build a project? Are you able to look at a real problem in what's happening locally and then use the technology that we have available to provide the solution? So the idea is not to bring the technology first. The idea is to solve the problem. Then you can bring the technology at any time. And that should be the easiest way to approach any scenario.
Okay, it sounds like you saw things in a different dimension. So you're kind of, when you tell people things, then you realize, oh, I should probably be taking my own advice.
Yeah, yeah, there is also that part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I like what you've touched on, and I think most people have this query. So I'm in accounting, I am in manufacturing, I'm in finance, I am in geospatial, I'm in whatever industry, I'm in media, and then you wonder, how does data science tie in to what I'm doing? So as long as there is data that comes in that industry, then for sure data science applies to it, and anybody across all those industries can be able to learn data science and be able to develop solutions around it.
yeah,
Jackie, thank you for giving us that experience. So now to the juicy part. After Africa Data School, what happened so that you get a job in Hooray? How did you go even know? How did you go about knowing about Hooray? And just tell us your experience from how you got to know about it, how the hiring process was, how you got to even get noticed by them. Just give a brief about that.
yeah. Thank you. So I think that's an important question because what happened is that you get to a point where the technology is actually advancing, and there is only few people in that arena, like in AI, in deep learning, even in machine learning itself. And then I actually met one of the strategic partners of NVIDIA via LinkedIn. And she was called Amulia. And what actually she mentioned was that you've got to a point where you should give back to your local community. Like you should actually come up with some sort of community. Like, yes, you're good in this particular area, but it will actually be better if you can come up with more developers, people who are good in AI, people who are good in deep learning and machine learning, because there are opportunities, but there is very few talent in the space. So through those kind of an advice, I was able to start establishing workshops, just trying to reach out to developers and trying to tell them about, these are the frameworks, these are the new platforms. And through that giving back, I was able to get noticed by NVIDIA itself, who were willing to start, giving some of their very expensive GPUs and very expensive courses, and also to make that available for free for students. And I was actually the media of that. And through that, I was able to be exposed to other opportunities like Huri. So apparently for Huri AI, because they're a conversational AI company, I worked with the Raza framework and they were looking for that developer. And I had actually built a successful project that was actually deployed. So once they were able to see that and some documentation of how I came to do that, it was easier for me to apply for that job. And they actually asked if I could work in that capacity. So it was an honor. So I just said, cool. So then there was a meeting about that. And all they wanted to know is if I'm capable to do the engineering aspect, the programming, basically solving problems, debugging the usual problems that are faced by developers. And also one of the students that I was able to teach networked me with an organization that was also looking for an AI developer who has worked with natural language processing models. Yeah, and that's how I ended up with those opportunities. So the major part was in the course of giving back to the local developers, I guess. That's when I actually got the opportunity to be in that capacity.
Wow, that's. I think that should sink in for everybody. In the course of helping other people,
Yeah,
there is no way you can't get noticed.
yeah,
There is no way you can't get noticed for in the course of helping other people. And I think for people who are getting into this software kind of space, you realize there's a lot of giving back. You realize there are so many communities there that people are just volunteer to come and teach other people how to code. And there are so many places like those. And volunteering really goes a long way to help you get noticed, get your skills fine-tuned, and and other goodies that really come with it. Uh, so what did I want to say? Yeah, so you went ahead. The project. One thing that I've noted is the project that you did all the way in 2020
yeah,
comes back in 2022 to help you get hired.
yeah, yeah. And also, I was part of a lot of communities. Like I mentioned, when you work on a project, you learn a lot of things. You meet problems. Let's say you want to deploy your application to cloud. You have a problem with Amazon Web Services or Azure services. You go to their forum. You start asking questions. You also look at the questions that other people are asking. Like just most of us are familiar with the Stack Overflow. So yeah, you're going to meet a lot of people on those platforms, and there's always nothing new under the sun. There's always someone going through the same issue in terms of what you're dealing with, in form of errors, in form of even blocks. If you get blocks in a particular project, there are people who have been there. They have actually employed some particular technique, and they were able to solve that problem. So I was able to start networking with other developers from different areas. And also I attended a lot of conferences. Some of them I was actually lucky to be a speaker. Most of them I was actually an attendee. So there are a lot of guys building sustainable solutions around Africa. And it's always good to network with those kind of people and see what available opportunities you might be able to be exposed to.
Okay, thanks for that. How much are they paying you? How much is a data scientist salary?
I'll say enough is enough. Yeah, so mostly it depends. So in Kenya right now, Okay, there is no such thing as a junior data scientist. That's in my experience, because a junior data scientist is actually a data scientist. So uh, you'll find that a very reputable organization is willing to give you something more than 100,000 for that kind of capacity. And the reason why they're giving you that money is not because you are actually very smart at maybe thinking about problems and solving them spontaneously. It's about the fact that you're consistent, depending on different problems you meet in along the journey, along your career and stuff like that. Are you able to formulate sensible objectives and solutions? And how frequent are you able to come up with those solutions? Because as we all know, you'll never solve all the problems at once. Um, you get into a position, you don't know a lot of things, you have to adapt and always be consistent. And that's what actually earns the value. You actually earn a value through that, as opposed to just selling your skill and saying, here are my papers, here are the frameworks that I know, and I'm a very proficient programmer. I think, in my opinion, that's what constitutes to a very good game.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that. And I think we can go to the Q&A. I think we have around 24 more minutes. So I'll just go ahead and start with the questions, and then depending on which one it is, I'll either answer or you can answer. So I'll start with Kangeri Simel. They asked, if I do data analytics course, are exams administered online? I think I'll answer that. So first of all, the only course that we offer at Africa Data School at the moment is data science. And yes, the exams are delivered online. So we give two certificates, one from Africa Data School, that is upon presenting a project, just like Jackie's did. And then we have the Microsoft exam, our Microsoft certificate, and for that you get a certificate once you finish or successfully finish the exam, and the exam is administered online. Kangeri, I hope I have been able to answer your question. If not, just state and I can elaborate. We have Benson Nyota. Hi, which companies should one consider applying jobs after learning data science? I'll let Jackie answer that question.
Yeah, so that depends. What I usually advise is that what kind of industry do you want to apply yourself? Because yes, you're good at data science, but you can't solve all problems in every industry. Is it finance you are actually interested in? Is it manufacturing? Is it the medical field? There are a lot of solutions that are being actually, as we speak, the medical field is what is benefiting the most from things like machine learning and AI. And also, you should also look at in terms of your skill. Do you want to develop the analytical part of data science, or do you want to develop the machine learning aspect? So once you answer those questions, then it will be easy for you to know which companies you want to target. If a company sits in the finance industry, then you'll be well equipped to perform in that kind of an industry, as opposed to just trying out any industry. It will be hard for you to even adapt and also grow in that space if you're not very specific.
Okay, great. So places like banks, medical companies, insurance companies, software companies, especially software as a service companies, those ones are heavy on data. And what other kind of companies can?
Even logistic companies now.
Yeah, logistics companies. Yeah, so that's just to name a few. Some that you should consider. So, but as Jackie has said, look at what you're good at beyond the data science. Maybe you are good at finance, you're good at logistics, you're good at insurance, you're a medical professional. Look at what you're good at and then apply. Those are the companies you should probably go for. What jobs does the course open graduates too? I think maybe that one was tied is almost tied to what we've just said. So you're open to opportunities in data. So there is data, becoming a data engineer. So that a data engineer, I think, majorly deals with organizing the data. How does the data come in, and how do you structure it in a way that it is ready for a model? There is the data analytics person. So this is the person who derives insights, and then there's the data data science machine learning expert. So the machine learning part has the deep learning uh, places like what Jackie is doing in natural language processing. There's computer vision. Those ones they deal majorly with anything that is visual. So uh, those are some of the roles that are on top of my mind that people
Yeah.
can apply to, and the skills that you gain at Africa Data School uh, go a long way to help you in that line. There's one thing, uh, just learning and knowing what to learn, because essentially there is what you should know what to study. And I think that's one of the things that are most helpful about the ADS course. It helps you shape up to know what to learn, not just running fast nowhere. It's move progressively, but towards a goal.
Yeah. Just
Uh,
just to
be,
add on that, Duncan, is that
Go ahead.
there's a new space in it's called the data professionals. So you have to think about who are building the ethical blocks when it comes to data and handling data and implementing these AI systems. So we also have the area of the ethical side. So if you also might want to be around policy making and just making sure that we are building AI and machine learning for good, and they're not really exploiting people and things like that. And data privacy is also parts of that. Also, there is that field you might want to uh, uh, get
To
yourself
venture into.
into, especially if you are into policy making.
Okay. Thanks for the addition, Jackies. Uh, how appropriate is data analytics for accountants? Uh, Jackies, you got that? I think you've been
Yeah,
asked this a lot of times in your class.
yeah. So
I can't
uh,
hear you.
can you get me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So for data analytics in accounting, so accounting is inherently all about numbers, and I gather that most accountants they have some enterprise software that they work with. But what you realize is that if you're not able to provide financial reports or even just to work around data, um, you're not going to be very successful at accounting, because there have been systems that are being built that can actually do that adequately, not better than human beings, but close to that. So I think the next step is the reporting part. Are you able to manage stocks adjustments in, stocks adjustment out, those things that are actually relatable to the accounting scene? But because we are dealing with data and this software are actually producing data, so at some point you'll have to tell a data story of what's happening in terms of even of auditing that data. Can you establish a trend? Can you establish something like a pattern or something like that? So it's not alienated, it's part of data. And as long as you work with numbers every day, you're going to interact with data storage, and you're going to interact with the reporting tool, and eventually coming up with insights out of that kind of information so that you can report that to maybe high level management or guys who are interested in that kind of information.
Thanks for the ad, Jackies. Samuel Karaoke, you are asking, is Africa Data School an accredited learning institution? This is important as per the quality of certificate one gets from them. So one, we are not accredited. The reason for this is you will realize that we have students from all over Africa. So if we submit to one body that is in one country, we kind of lose meaning, because whatever accreditation is in Kenya is not what is needed in probably Zimbabwe or in Ghana. However, your skills are, I would say our skills are accredited by Africa Data School, because your skills will be used in Kenya, they'll be used in California, they'll be used everywhere. And if we are to get someone to give us a certificate that is well renowned, we because of that need, we decided to partner with Microsoft so that we can offer exams by Microsoft that are accredited by Microsoft. And Microsoft is a global company that is known by everybody, and that's why we went ahead to partner with them and certify our students. So the only people who I would say have endorsed the skills we give is Microsoft. As opposed to just Africa Data School, it's Microsoft. So no major government institutions has accredited us. In addition to that, when we started Africa Data School, we wanted it to be a place where people acquire skills. Like you had, the story of many of us is we finish campus, we get a very good degree, first class degree, but then you don't have the hands-on skills to go and actually do the actual job. So we want to concentrate more on making sure that you can deliver on your skill as opposed to certificate. And that's why we want a project and not give you a test, because if you can provide a project, it means you have understood the skills that you learn. And there's no you can do a project without going back to your notes and looking at how do I build this, how do I build this. So it more so helps to intensify your learning as well. The next question is Benson is asking, how do you give back to developers, Jacques, to local developers?
Yeah, so I do that via the emerging chapters that NVIDIA offers. So this was a collaboration between NVIDIA and Africa Data School. And majorly it's centered around deep learning and AI, computer vision, natural language processing. So what they do is that they provide GPUs that you can be able to do this certification. They give you like some GPU time, like maybe a full day for you to do the course. They are very expensive, as we all know. You can be able to experiment, do the exam, and then get certified. And then there is always a catch up just to understand like what is the experience. And there's always the questions of the local developers asking, now that I have gotten this certificate, where do I go from here? Are there opportunities at the same place? Or where can I actually practice this life? So we do this through workshops, and most of it is also the instructor-based kind of an approach when we are in this workshops.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Kangeri, so there's a difference between data analytics and data science. Please expound a bit. Jacques, I think this is another question you had to answer a lot during your classes. So let you just handle it.
Yeah, so you'll find that most of the guys will want to be, they'll always want to say that data analytics is easier than data science, or data science is easier than data analytics. But basically, let me start with data science, is that it's a whole pipeline, which means that you start by preparing the data. After you prepare the data, you all understand that it's important for you to have quality data sets. So you must have that, do some exploratory data analysis. That is the second step. So I'm not really talking about where you found the data. That's also a different scenario, because you also have to map out where you're going to get the data. But once you have it, prepare it, do a bit of analysis on the data, could be general. Now from there, depending on what you're building, depending with how do you want this application to end up? Do you want it to be a data application? Do you want it to be predictive analytics? Or do you want it to be a machine learning project? Then that will determine, because for data analytics, what you're majorly around is, are you able to transform data into actionable insights? And are you able to provide these insights on a platform that most of the users can interact with and have a very good user experience? So that will make you to build a data application. But sometimes you can be a data analyst, but you're also working with the machine learning models, because when you're building these applications, the machine learning can be the back end of the data application, meaning that you're provided this very nice dashboard, but then you want to be able to predict maybe future events. Now, for you to do that, you have to build a very good machine learning system behind the data application. So there is no clear cut of where the data analytics stops and where data science starts. Actually, my thinking is in that pipeline, like Duncan mentioned, do you want to settle around just the data? Do you want to settle around just the analytics? Or do you want to combine both analytics and the predictive element of machine learning to build a more robust kind of a system? Or do you just want to deal with the machine learning part only, whereby someone else is working around the data and you're just building the framework or the pipeline for the machine learning model or the deep learning model? But the baseline of the both of you is that you are definitely going to work with the data, and nobody's going to clean that data for you. Nobody's going to make sure that it's good quality, but just yourself. So I think I've answered that question.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And you realize, yes, in this data science is a whole line, and analytics just is a subset of the whole,
Yeah.
or just a part of the whole data science process.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was Duncan. Yeah, just to elaborate on that is that
Jackie, what are you expected to solve in your?
sorry, you had lost it. Yeah, so
Okay, I'm saying in your current role, what are you expected? What problems are expected to solve?
yeah, so currently when I started actually this opportunity, when I started on this job, my biggest problem was how am I going to make sure that I know whatever I know I can actually apply it, because I've already solved what I know, but then there's the question of now can I actually do it. So at that time, it was just trying to translate what I know to map to the exact issues. And there were problems like you'll find someone asking you, can you be able to prepare data very well? And there are challenges around that because maybe you are used to working with numbers or text. Then you start being exposed to images and audio. And for some reason, they believe that data scientists are supposed to know how to work with just any data. So currently, what I'm tasked with is building data infrastructure that has to be always abstracted. Like whatever system that you're working with, you always don't have to worry about where data is, how is it being relayed to you. You just have to work with the data as a data scientist. So that is what I'm tasked with. And also, I'm tasked with building AI models, the deep learning models, both for NLP processes. There are use cases that we apply natural language processing, like for text classification, sentiment analysis on social media. And also in analyzing images, I end up building most of these pipelines for computer vision. So basically, it's the back and forth. One day I'm working with the models, the other day I'm actually working with the data. So when you're going to be very efficient in this, you realize that 50% is going to be taken by the data, making sure that data is all right. Then the other chunk is going to be taken care of building the model, deploying the model, and maintaining it on whatever platform that you've exposed that model. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
So it sounds like some of the problems you solve is having to clean the data. That is
Yeah,
making sure that the data does not have missing values.
yeah,
The data, if a data has only numbers, there is no text existing and vice versa.
yeah,
And it also sounds like you go ahead to build the model, the machine learning models using the different algorithms that are in existence.
yeah,
Yeah, and also I think you've said that you need to say what is best for computer vision, what's best for text, and what's best for data sets that involve sound or audio.
yeah, yeah. Because most of the time, they'll just throw data to you, and they'll say, please give us the answers. So you have to be very flexible. You don't have to choose. You don't choose the tools. You just actually get into it. If the text data is what you're presented with, how are you going to work analysis around it? How are you going to build a model for it? Same thing for images. Same thing for audio. And there's also the big part of managing this, because after you've already built this, it's supposed to be maintained. You're not going to build these systems over and over. You're supposed to improve it, supposed to indulge the user, make sure that the user is in the loop, trying to take what the user is proposing, the feedbacks, and trying to inject that back to the system. That's what actually makes a system to work for the real user, as opposed to solving a problem that works for you and you only.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. So, Dennis or Marion, do you have? I think the most important thing is the skill that one gets after finishing. True, Dennis. Do you have physical class in other countries besides Kenya? So currently we are fully online. So whether you're in Kenya, whether you're in Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Ghana, South Africa, Zimbabwe, I mean Zambia, Tanzania, Uganda, South Sudan, all those places we are fully online, and there's a reason we for this. One is because having a wider community exposes our students to better, better, better opportunities and a robust and diverse ecosystem of people that they can collaborate with. Because you see a lot that you learn a lot from the people you meet in Africa Data School, not just the instructors. So as for now, even for the class starting in September and the classes that are currently happening in August, they are all fully online. Kipngetich Isaac, what is the prerequisite for the course? Must you be good in programming? Uh, I think I'll just say my part and then Jackie's will say. So we've seen people who, there are two different kinds of people. The people who have the technical skills and they just feel confident and they know this is the career path I want to take. Then there's the person who wants to, they know that this is good for them. They don't have the technical know-how, but they have the willpower. So the willpower means they are willing to put in the work, as I would say, because nothing is impossible, but you just have to put in more work than the person who already had a background in programming. Having a background in programming is okay, but the willpower is what matters most, because you'll find someone who comes without the background, where we give them the tools that they need and they just run with them, and by the end of the day you find that that person is doing some pretty amazing things. Jackie, what would you say about the having programming as a background and not having one?
Yeah, so there are two sides to that coin. There is, if you have a background, of course, it's easier because it will be easy for you to just move to the next step. But just like Duncan has mentioned, you don't have to be technical when you're approaching this because of the opportunities that are there. Not all opportunities about data science are actually technical. Some of them revolve around project management. Like I mentioned, some of them revolve around ethics and making sure that you're building these systems in the right way. So I saw a question about what if you're coming from social sciences. So there is such a thing as domain expertise, and then there is now you being the data scientist. You're actually very lucky for you to be a data scientist and to be the domain expert at the same time, meaning that you're working for this organization and you're the medical field and you're also the data scientist for that field. So it's easier in that case, as opposed to someone who has no domain knowledge but has the knowledge about data science. So which means that you'll have to work with someone who, especially for guys who are in sales, you have to work hand in hand for you to understand the customer base and for you to come up with the right evaluation questions for that. So it depends. And also it depends with your will to practice. I usually look at programming like mathematics. Like if you do like 5 sums in a day, then the same thing you do is tomorrow, you're definitely going to be good at it. And then you're going to find even less costly way and simpler ways to do the same thing. So it's always about practice and your attitude towards what you know and also what you really don't know and you wish that you could know. So most of that also, I usually like to advise that you read a lot of documentations because there's a lot of videos on YouTube which actually are good, but you have to start with the documentation of that particular thing for you to know the ins and outs. Then probably go to the YouTube video to get a simpler approach. But everything has to start from the documentation of that framework, that language, or that system that you want to understand in the long run.
Okay, thank you for that, Jackie. So Samuel, another difference is that data scientist takes raw data and generates new and novel outcomes from it, true, unlike data analytics who generate reports functioned by decision makers. That's true. Samuel, are you a student at Africa Data School already? Samuel, karaoke. Okay. Uh, so Mike asks, so what happens after the 3 months of the course? So Mike, initially, once someone finishes from Africa Data School, nothing much was happening before, apart from when we get recommendations for companies coming to us to ask for job. What we did was just recommend students. However, we've taken upon ourselves to add more value to people. So one of the things we aim to do is proactively look for jobs for our graduates and help them put what I would say their portfolios in order so that they can be able to to find jobs. The other thing we've started is we bring people like Jackies who are already working and they can tell you the things that they did so that you can also be in a position to know that you're not alone in this. There's someone who has hacked this and was able to go ahead and get a job. So if you successfully finish Africa classes at Africa Data School. So that means you got your certificate. That means you presented a project. That means you know what you are doing, and it's a clear sign that you understood the concepts. We are going to actively make sure that you get a job. That is our promise. So we were never doing this before. We started it a month ago, and that is something that we are going to commit to. Uh, Mike, I hope I answered your question. Uh, quick question. What's the best process to undertake to build one's skills in deployment of projects and the best functionalities to use to apply the same? Jackie's just answer that one.
So about deployment, uh, if you are good with Python, I usually like to refer to Python because most of these systems they are friendlier to Python frameworks because when you build your system, you build your machine learning pipeline, you want to move that to maybe like let's say a web application, or maybe you want to serve that to be depending on where exactly you want to deploy that. There are different methods you can deploy that. So I think the question here is which frameworks you're supposed to use. So there are frameworks like Flask, there are frameworks like Heroku, Streamlit that are open source. That's the good thing about these frameworks. They can allow you to uh, quickly build a very simple model or a very simple system. We're talking about a system that can handle the very basic questions or the very basic issues. Then you deploy it very quickly on a web application so that the idea is you should be able to get this system to your users as fast as possible. Because as I mentioned, you don't want to run into the problem of building a solution for yourself. You are building a solution for the users. So the quicker you can get this system to the users, the better you iterate on the systems, the better you build these models in the most cost-effective way, and also balancing the issues of what is available in terms of the compute. The compute is also a challenge. How much compute do you have in your machine and elements like that? So I'll just say that for Python frameworks, it's easy for you to integrate with almost any deployment mechanism, whether it's a web application, a messaging channel, or basically you want to explore an enterprise software, depending on what exactly you're building and what's the use case for the software.
Jackie, this is a personal question for me.
Yeah.
Of all the classes that you taught, which one do you want to come back and teach? At least one. That's the subject for one day. Which topics of all the topics that we have for Africa Data School would
I
you
think
feel you enjoy teaching?
yeah, I think initially, okay, I love AI. Anytime I like talking about AI, natural language processing especially. But what I've come to learn is that anything that starts with data, you'll find me there. Like most people don't want that, but you're not going to build any system with that, with poor data. So anything that starts with data, that talks about making sure that data is in the right format and making sure that data is actually consumable for any system. That's the poetry I'll always want to. And I always believe not to be a teacher more. I'm actually more of a student because I also learn a lot most of the time. So through those experiences, I always want also to tell people what I know and also them to tell me what they know, and then you can make it a more wholesome kind of a knowledge base as opposed to just telling people what you know. You don't
Okay,
really know
so
enough. Yeah.
so from the cohort starting in September, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
You'll teach one of the just
Yeah.
one out of the 36 classes. You'll
Yeah.
teach one class.
Yeah. That'll be
Yeah.
anything to do with data. I'm always there.
Okay, okay, great.
Oh, thanks.
I know we are past time. Just go to the last question. Uh, Jackies, what programming language are you using in the company that you are in? Which programming languages, so
So
to
of
say?
course, yeah, I'm using Python and also I'm using Scala and any command line kind of language. I'm using that, but most of the time it's just Python and Scala. Scala is just like a simpler version of Python. I don't see, and also Julia. There's also a language called Julia, so you'll tend to write few lines of code with Julia than with Python. The problem with that is how many frameworks are willing to, are you able to use when you're using Julia? So I usually stick with Python most of the time. Um, from data and all the way to deployment, unless I'm working with cloud services where you have to know some knowledge of Linux commands or those kind of commands.
Okay. So Dennis, just to note, we also the course the language of preference for Africa Data School is Python, and majorly because almost every company uses Python for their data science needs. It's not that there are not others that are there that are better. It's just that this one is used almost across all the companies. So thank you guys for attending this webinar. I hope you gained a lot. We are going to have more of this. You're going to, and this session is being recorded, so I am going to create a link and forward to all of you. So just in case you want to watch it. Thank you guys, and I hope you've gotten inspired. I hope you've got to learn a lot, and stay tuned on your emails. Put us on your primary email so that you can be getting updates on such content. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Jackies, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.